Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. With the recent news that Bruce Willis has officially retired from acting because of an illness known as aphasia that affects his brain, so it affects his ability as an actor, of course, and more importantly, I'm sure it's been affecting him in his personal life for a while. Jesus, slow down, dude. Jeez, people are idiots. Uh, so yeah, it's very, very sad to say the least, but I am sort of just trying to be happy for the guy. You know, he gave us many movies throughout the course of decades, many iconic performances, many memorable moments, a lot of great films. And this is just my way of sort of reflecting on those great times and paying tribute and just saying thanks. Not that he's watching this. I know he's not fucking watching this. But either way, this is just my way of putting it out there and just, I'm very grateful for all these years that we got to spend going to the movies and watching him kick some ass. That's what really gets me is never again are we going to be able to sit down in a dark room and just see him, cracking jokes, being funny again, or just, taking down a bad guy or those iconic words, Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, up on the screen just one more time. Oh, that'd be nice, but oh well, it is what it is. And, he had a really great career and he'll always be one of the greatest action stars. An action star that could do comedy, that could do drama. I have a lot of respect for that. So yeah, hopefully he's going to be okay. Hopefully he gets the help he needs and he gets his happy ending because quality time with the family is really important. And as a husband and father, that is all that we can ever hope for in life. So okay, these are my top 10 Bruce Willis movies, and I just got to say right off the bat, Pulp Fiction is not on this list. Not because I don't like that movie. I love Pulp Fiction. It's just that I consider that more of a Quentin Tarantino film than a Bruce Willis film. And considering Bruce Willis has sort of limited amount of screen time compared to like Bruce Willis in Sin City, which is more of a action movie kind of character, you will see Sin City on my list, my top 10, just to let you know. But yeah, Pulp Fiction to me it's just not fair to these movies. It's in a league of its own. So yeah, you won't find it on here, just for that reason. So getting started, my number 10 is from the summer of 1998, the number one movie of that summer, Michael Bay's third film following the success of Bad Boys and The Rock. Armageddon was so much fun the first time I watched it, and every single time I watch it since then, it doesn't get any less fun. This movie is always, always a blast. And yeah, the plot doesn't make a lick of sense. Oil drillers trained to be astronauts in a time crunch kind of fashion because in 18 days, an asteroid the size of Texas is going to blow up Earth. Well, yeah, considering it sounds stupid, it's not. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but for people like me that enjoy, a turn your brain off kind of action movie, which is exactly what this is, it's just a great time. The actors in this movie are hilarious, especially when you get to the third act and Steve Buscemi is got the space dementia going on. I fucking love those scenes. But yeah, Bruce Willis was definitely the go-to guy to save the world at this time because a year before he was in The Fifth Element saving the world, and a year later here he is saving the world again. And he is sort of, for most of the movie, sort of paint by numbers Bruce Willis. But what I really love is when you get to the third act, you really get some of the best Bruce Willis performance in any movie, because the scene that he has at the end with his daughter, yeah, it gets me going. It gets me emotional. And I remember being in the theater, seeing this for the first time, turning to my right and seeing my dad and seeing the tears streaming down his face underneath the sunglasses. He was wearing sunglasses in the theater. Poor guy. I think he got jumped by some guys at some club the night before, so he wore sunglasses to cover up his black eyes. Sorry, Dad. I don't mean to bring up a sore spot, but that's something that I have not forgotten, Pops. I'm sorry. But yeah, I love Armageddon. It's big, dumb, loud fun, but it's still fun nonetheless. And you got Billy Bob Thornton, you got Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, Will Patton, Owen Wilson. Of course, I mentioned Steve Buscemi. You had Michael Clark Duncan, and with Bruce Willis sort of rounding out the cast as the main protagonist. yeah, what a great time. You know, the special effects are still awesome and kick-ass soundtrack. And of course, the Michael Bay-isms in this movie are pretty at a minimum, I think. They're kept at a minimum for the most part. There are some cringeworthy moments here and there. After all, it is a Michael Bay movie, but tons of fun, and it's definitely a late 90s classic. So yeah, Armageddon, that's my number 10, without a doubt. My number 9 is a movie that I grew up with, that I watched over and over again with my cousins, my sister. I love this movie. It's Hudson Hawk from 1991, directed by Michael Lehman. And in this movie, Bruce Willis plays a cat burglar known as Hudson Hawk, who is in prison for 10 years, and he's released. He hooks back up with his old buddy, his old partner in crime, played by Danny Aiello, and they have an awesome friendship in this movie. They're really great as an on-screen buddy duo, and they're just sort of wisecracking, like cracking jokes throughout the whole movie. Andy McDowell is great as the love interest, and you have these crazy batshit villains in this movie in the form of Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, who play this evil couple, and they're outrageous in this movie. This movie is pretty nuts because this is a movie that has a tone that's kind of all over the place. It's a rated R action movie that has some dark comedy, and it's an action movie about a cat burglar who sings songs, and depending on the song, how long it is, that's what him and his partner time their crimes to. And you know, the idea of a cat burglar trying to sing while he's pulling off a crime, you know, I mean, aren't you supposed to be quiet? You know, you don't want to get caught, right? But you know, like a lot of movies, you know, you just kind of go with it. You don't question it because it's so much damn fun. And this movie is at times it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon. There's a scene where Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello jump off a roof of a building, outside the building, and land on top of an outside awning, like fucking way, way, way down at the bottom. And they crash through, and then it cuts, and then Bruce Willis lands right onto a reclining chair inside of a room somehow, which doesn't make any fucking sense. And then they add cartoon sound effects. You're gonna hear some cartoon sound effects throughout the movie every now and then. Like I said, it's like a live action Looney Tunes cartoon at times. But there's so much fun to be had in this movie. Yeah, it's silly, but it's a movie about a cat burglar who is blackmailed into robbing the Vatican. So you get these exotic locations. You got the CIA that's has agents that are named after candy bars. I'm telling you, this movie's fucking batshit crazy, but it's a whole lot of fun. And anybody that has not checked this movie out, if you're a Bruce Willis fan, please check this out. It's called Hudson Hawk. It was, I think, in 1991, it was not consistent with, I think, what Bruce Willis had done previously. So people were probably just like, all right, what's this supposed to be? Because it was just way different than like Die Hard and Die Hard 2. You know, this is more in the adventure comedy kind of thing, so a genre. So yeah, those of you that enjoy a good laugh and don't want to take your action too seriously, Hudson Hawk is definitely one of the best Bruce Willis comedic performances ever, in my opinion. Love Hudson Hawk, and I watch it just for you know, the Danny Aiello Bruce Willis friendship. It's really one of my favorite movie on-screen buddy duos. So yeah, 1991 Hudson Hawk, great flick. So number eight, The Last Boy Scout, baby, 1991, directed by the great late Tony Scott, and this was written by Shane Black. Those of you that know Shane Black, you're probably familiar with his work. Lethal Weapon. He wrote and directed The Long Kiss Goodnight, as well as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Iron Man 3. And his stamp of humor and comedy is all over this movie, which is why I love it to death. I love the verbal jousting between Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. Bruce Willis plays a private detective who is hired to be a bodyguard to an exotic dancer who is in some kind of danger, played by a very early in her career Halle Berry. Damon Wayans plays her boyfriend. He's an ex-football player. And when Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis meet for the first time, there is some animosity there, a little bit. And it's a lot of fun seeing them team up, and just a lot of great verbal jousting throughout the movie. You got this really cool henchman in the film that has one of my favorite all-time movie deaths. And in this movie, Bruce Willis has, of course, the classic Bruce Willis look with the 5 o'clock Shadow. His relationship with his wife isn't too great. His relationship with his kid isn't too great. And the best thing he can really do is just go out there on the street and kick some ass, which is what he does. I don't want to give away too much of the plot because the plot is kind of fun to discover on your own as you check this movie out and watch it. But just know that this is a Tony Scott action movie that has a bit of a detective angle. He is a private detective, but for the most part, it's not a thinking man's kind of movie. It's, good shoot 'em up, some car chases, some explosions. Just the kind of thing that they used to do very often back in the day, but, well. And Tony Scott, when it comes to action movies, he was like one of the kings of action movies, especially action comedies. Those of you that are fans of Tony Scott, he can definitely make a great action comedy like Beverly Hills Cop and, I'm sorry, Beverly Hills Cop 2, actually. Sorry. First one was a Martin Brest film. And yeah, I love The Last Boy Scout. It's got a great music score. And of course, Bruce Willis playing a private detective is just always awesome, especially since he always has to confront the bad guy with the coolest one-liners, especially in this one. He has some really cool lines in this movie. Some of my favorite Bruce Willis one-liners. There's a scene where a guy has a knife up to his face, and he's sort of taunting him, and he tells him, I want to hear you scream, just once. And, Bruce Willis is more of a Pat Boone guy, I guess, in this film, so he makes a couple of remarks about like funky type music in the film that he just, I guess it's not his thing. It's not his demographic, right? So yeah, when the guy is like, I just want to hear you scream, has a knife to his face, Bruce just looks him straight in the eye and says, play some rap music. Number 7, 2005's Sin City from director Robert Rodriguez. Everything about this movie to me is almost damn near perfect because I love the story structure. Excuse me. I love the ensemble cast, and Mickey Rourke is also a great standout to me in this film, as well as Drama Across the Street, as well as Clive Owen. Is it Clive Owen? Yeah, the British guy, right? Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Clive Owen. And then I watched this movie and I thought, okay, this guy's all right. He's pretty cool. But of course, Bruce Willis for me is the star of the show. Even though all these actors are a lot of fun and all great in their own right. Josh Hartnett, Rosario Dawson, Brittany Murphy, may she rest in peace, Jessica Alba. It was really great just seeing Bruce Willis after a few years back in a role like this. Just seeing him play a cop holding a big ass gun. And Bruce was pretty much bald by this time, so it was cool that they gave him that, old school hair he used to have back in the 90s. And yeah, they gave him some gray, but it was fitting since he was getting a little up there in years. And I just love the style of this movie. I love the way it looks. I love the over-the-top violence. I love the grotesque stuff. And the one thing to me that held this movie back is that damn CG, especially in those damn car chases. I could have done without that. But everything else to me is fucking aces in this movie as far as I'm concerned. Number 6, from 1995, a sci-fi classic from director Terry Gilliam, 12 Monkeys, starring Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, and Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt in a great performance, a nominated performance for an Oscar. Too bad he didn't get it. He definitely deserved it. And I'm surprised, honestly, that Bruce Willis, well, I'm not surprised because, they're always overlooking great performances. But I actually am kind of surprised that he didn't even get any kind of award recognition for this part. And if he did, and if I don't know about it, I'm sorry. Those of you that, if you know about it, please let me know. Did he get a SAG award? Did he get anything? Because he should have gotten something because he is great in this movie. There are no traces of the Bruce Willis that we know from other movies in this movie. In this movie, all of that is stripped away and you get a pure performance, something that you won't see in many of his action films. I mean, because most of the time he's playing up his action movie persona, so we usually get the Bruce Willis that we're familiar with. Not in this movie. He is broken. He is imbalanced. He has traveled through time, and his mental state is very, very fragile. And at times he's questioning what is reality. Is he really a time traveler? Is he really crazy? And sometimes as a viewer, you'll wonder, is he right? Because the way this movie is shot, the way it's filmed, Terry Gilliam knew exactly what he was doing. So many shots in this movie are going to put you off and feel awkward, just the way they have these certain Dutch angles, or just these really awkward close-ups, and it all adds to the experience. I love Terry Gilliam's work. I was a big fan of The Fisher King. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Love Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Haven't seen many more of his films other than those, but I do want to see Brazil. Heard a lot about that. And I usually try to look out for the next Terry Gilliam movie, which they don't come out that often. He seldom makes a movie, really. So, but when he does, it's definitely something to look out for. And this is just an awesome sci-fi movie. You know, it revolves around Bruce Willis's character that travels back in time to prevent a catastrophe in the form of a virus. And by the end of the film, it sort of wraps up into this kind of a mind fuck, really, a mind fuck of an experience that some people might see coming, some people might not. I myself saw it coming a little bit, but it didn't ruin the experience for me at all. And yeah, I love 12 Monkeys. It is one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time, and it's a movie that every sci-fi fan or Bruce Willis fan should definitely see at least once. So yeah, that's my number 6. Love 12 Monkeys. Okay. So let's see, that was 10 through 6. So that's going to be my part 1 for this review video. And part 2 is coming out very, very soon. Hopefully you guys check that out. Thank you very much for watching, and please look out for more classic movie reviews. And I do consider these classics because Bruce Willis made a ton of classics. And most of these movies that I'm talking about are a little over 30 years old. So definitely classics by now. And like I said, I wish this guy tons of luck on his journey to hopefully some kind of recovery. And not that he's watching this, but this is just my way of saying thank you, love you, and you've always been one of my favorites. And yeah, there we go. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, and appreciate you watching. Look forward to hanging out with you again. And please, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Please share, comment, like, all that good stuff. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant night or day. Thanks.